this is the Mitsurugi K9 deck that I brought. This was my undefeated list. Oops, I will get right into it. Starting off with the main deck, of course, we play 3 copies of Better Ice Ryziel. Okay, it's not, but 3 copies of Noroi, just the GOAT. 3 copies of Azuna. We're not wasting any time here. I played 2 copies of Lantern, 1 copy of Jolkol, and 1 copy of K9 Lupus. I also played for the K9 cards, 1 case for K9, because 1 K9 Forced Release, and 1 7th Tachyon. At the time, I didn't have the monster that could search for 7th Tachyon, but I figured it'd just be another good consistent piece. But that's the names for the K9 cards for the main deck. I kept it very simple. I didn't really play extra copies of Lupus just because I wanted to make space for the Mitsurugi cards. And speaking of Mitsurugi, played the 1 Habakiri. This just needs to be banned. Just too good and not great for the game's health. 1 Mirakumo and 1 of this. A very easy side-out card. Yeah, I mean, you don't change this. This is pretty much figured out. You play 1 of that, 1 Mirror, 1 Ritual, 3 Prayers, and I played 3 Prep because you would, of course, play preparations for the deck. It's Mitsurugi K9, and if it resolves, you pretty much just win the game. For non-engine, the first 6 cards that you put in most decks, Ash and Fua. I played 2 copies of Droll and Blockbird. I also played 2 copies of Bell and 1 copy of Shifter because your deck can just play around it. And I also played 2 copies of Imperm just to fill up that nice 40 count list. For the extra deck, we've got our nice Field Center for K9 Hound. 2 copies of K9 Ripper. I also played 1 copy of Jax. It doesn't really come up that much, but it is just another name to help with the grind. And if I'm playing any variant of K9, I'm going to lean more on the K9 as much as I can. And 1 copy of Werewolf. That's all the K9 names I did play. I did have to cut Hound and Ripper, which I didn't like, but I'll get into it in the second part of the video. I figured this time I would just get the deck profile first. The thing that most people care about, who cares what I have to say. Nash Knight, Artifact Durandal, 1 C106 for 7 Tachyon, of course, for Nash Knight as well, for your rank 5 packages and all that. Galaxy Lord, Hope Harbinger. The fact that this actually doesn't detach to negate spells does hurt a lot, but it is what it is. That other effect can come up. Of course, our beloved Typhon, and 1 Zeus to fill out that Xyz part of the extra deck. 1 IP Masquerena. I was going to play SP, but I couldn't find my SP in time. I think I left in my Odeon Primite deck. So I went with this because there are some matches where this will actually really matter, and I actually did get to resolve this, and it did win me a game. 1 Dynamundo because this is the GOAT, and 1 Saryuja. I finally got to resolve this card once. I drew 4. It was 2 of the other Mitsurugi ritual monsters, Mox Army Fuwalos, and like some other card. It was probably the worst draw 4 in this game's history. And now, on to the side deck. I really didn't know what to do any different here. I last minute decided to play Mitsurugi K9 because my locals has been telling me to branch out. So I tried. 1 copy of Lupus. The idea is once the deck is established, this other Lupus comes, and it did come up. Otherwise, I would have lost a game without it. But also, Lupus go Typhon, just get that extra interaction for some matchups is really good. 1 of this, if I know I'm going first, I want to layer my board, especially if I'm thinking that my opponent will play more than one Charmy, as that is one of the things I don't like about this build, is how bad it actually is and having to compromise on what you want to play or not. And the final 2 K9 cards that I played as well, I did play 1 Hound for extra name, and this Millennium, I didn't really come up with that, but the Hound did come up, just having another name to get that grind. That's something that I really like about pure K9, is how you're able to do that. And this could definitely be something else, but I'm really glad I put the Hound in, because it did come up and some specific matchups. And the Hound, of course, is the GOAT. No way I'm not playing him in any capacity if it's possible. 3 copies of Retaliating Sea, 3 copies of Perilia, 3 copies of this card, and then Solemn Judgment and the Great Purification. This deck has some consistency issues, so I didn't want to main deck this. And, you know, my last game, I Solemn Judgment and got that on the board, and there was just no way they were going to win the game. And that's it for the deck profile. I will go into a little bit about my thoughts on the deck and just everything else that there is to discuss about it. Alright, so now I'm here to give my honest thoughts and things that I learned while playing Mitsurugi K9. First of all, I want to say that, you know, I was bound, I feel like, to play different versions of K9 at some point anyway, just because, you know, I enjoy K9. I really want to try to, like, push it. I really do enjoy the game style of it, and, you know, it's just a fun deck. I had many different ideas. A part of me wants to really give Vanquish Soul another try. I don't know if it's a smart idea or not, to give him the OCG just dropping that they're going to get him banned this soon, which means we're most likely to be getting it shortly after theirs, as our track record shows. But I will say, ultimately, I found pure K9 to actually be more fun than Mitsurugi. Well, throughout the day that when I was playing Mitsurugi, I bricked way more often than I would with pure. Pure doesn't have as much extension, but it has less bricks. Mitsurugi added with K9 plays a lot worse into much more hand traps. If someone Perilia Flawless, which I seem to get that all the time, mid Mitsurugi combo, that's kind of rough, and there's no way to really to play around it in a variant where you have to kind of cut a lot of the fat for other cards. But if I get Fua Perilia on K9 pure, I can go Ripper, set 2, because you don't play both quick play spells, insulate the board, you know, whatever. Get, you know, basically I can just set myself up and hold the rest of the resources. And I know there's downsides. Honestly speaking, if you want to, like, play a competitive version, Mitsurugi K9 has proved itself time and again to be a very viable deck. But I don't really like the bridges. I've never really been a fan of... If it's more insulated, like Rizio, back when King of the Feral Imps was, you know, still a legal card, you know, you have your field spell that can also protect King to go full Mitsurugi combo too. But the options that you have is like Zombie Vampire, to mill 4 for a chance. You have that one monster that can search 7 Tachyon, which is nice and all, but that being impermed is the worst feeling, as you just neg so much, where now Prayers has to retrieve the rest of your board, etc., etc. I don't really like that, because it just gives such gaping holes to your foundation. And while I know many would say, well, it's a matter of being able to insulate and protect that play, make sure that it goes without being interrupted, you can't always bank on that. And you can always bank on your opponent being smart and knowing what to do. And that's the best way to approach the game. So playing something like that and having to actually like come to compromises like that, otherwise your opponent draws too much and you don't generate enough resources yourself, because they can always draw into draw or nib or whatever. I want you necessarily, your deck, both decks are capable of playing around it. When you have both, you have to decide. I don't really like that decision making. The reason... And I can't even say it's that I don't know how to use Mitsurugi. Back when Nouvelle came out, I played Mitsurugi Nouvelle. I got first place. I uploaded that. I know how to play Mitsurugi. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm the best Mitsurugi player. I know how to play K9 better than Mitsurugi, but I know how to play Mitsurugi. The reason I liked it in that is because, in particular, the tribute aspect not only played well with the continuous spell, but it also gave a bunch of extra consistency and higher numbers for the lower cards in hand, so you could chain block as well. There was a multitude of reasons to play. When I play K9 Mitz, I'm thinking to myself, I'd much rather play Pure. I would much rather just go into a rank 5. I would much rather have that diversity there, even if I don't have as high of a ceiling. And I know in many ways this sounds like I'm complaining, but in observation, I really did try this build because I was encouraged to stop playing Pure as much. I'm not going to stop playing Pure so long as it's legitimately just somewhat playable. I'm just a guy that enjoys playing Pure variants more than mixed match decks. Don't get me on a whole tangent about how I feel about how that I think is slowly killing the game, especially since there's not bridging, but off of one card versus actually like cohesion. But you can technically probably get a lot further than in a Pure deck, and obviously statistics would show that that would be true. Pure doesn't have very many tops, and I think it has like 3 in total. None of them have ever won a YCS or even like a regional. They've always gotten like 4th place, 8th place, whatever. They don't have quite that to get there, but I would feel much more comfortable with that. Something with the Seal 104 package being phenomenal. Being able to break boards going first and second with that. Mitsurugi is really good, but you come with the baggage of the ritual package, and because your cards don't really cohesively work that well, and your ritual spells cannot just tribute random monsters, it means you can't even use the monsters. You have to. And drawing the level 4s, not being able to do anything because they all can only just pretty much be normal summoned unless you have prayers, is not a great feeling either. So I'm not a huge fan of this build. I wish I could hide my disappointment and my true feelings about it, but that's just, truth be told, that's just how I feel. There's other variants I would like to try too that maybe have a bit more synergy, but it's still a good deck. Like, let not get anything wrong here. Being able to bait one out of the other is phenomenal. Being able to bait with the K9 part, then just go Habakiri to break their board and win is great. The boards you make are definitely way more layered than Pure. Being able to have IP, the one that specials, and like maybe a prayers, and one rank 8 is so good. And it's very layered. It's very hard to out. And there's definitely skill involved in deciding what is and what isn't correct. So it's still a very viable deck. But personally for me, I just want to play K9. I just want to see the K9 cards do K9 things. I just want to see that deck do stuff. There's still, of course, many different variants, but we are getting to that point where we have to wonder if K9 survives this next list. I don't think K9 is going to get any worse in terms of getting hit in the future for now. But it was a nice experiment. It was still a good time. The Mitsurugi cards feel really good when they pop off. And, K9's still K9, K9 baby, and, all that good stuff. There's plenty of great lists out there as well that played similar. Our very own Banish for Cost also has a lot of experience with playing Mitsurugi K9 and playing it at its peak power. So that option is still there. And again, there's still very many other options. But truth be told, I will say, as much fun as I had, I was ultimately thinking to myself, I'd much rather play Disablaster. I'd much rather have chaotic elements to at least get these level 5s out of I'd much rather main deck more Lupus so I can actually get that turn 0 play more often. Like, the hand trap war is fading, and that interaction is super vital, so you get to push more on that. I want to play both quick plays. I don't want to draw these bad ritual bricks that you really need in order to combo off. So that's ultimately it. There's not really much more to it. I feel like it's a solid deck. For anyone that's interested, you should still try it anyway. It's So free. The Mitsurugi cards are so free. And even with the baggage, though, I'm over here hoping Habakiri gets what's coming to it at some point. I hope to God that this ages well, at least to some fathomable degree in 2026, that it came true. I don't care if it's 2030 and the card comes back off or whatever. It doesn't matter to me. It's just destroying deck building. Anyway, that's enough of that. Thank you for watching and have a good one, guys. And this is Naxxion out.